Hello, we have a lot of updates this month. Next month, probably we will have even more because of the summit. But let's start and discuss what's new in Databricks in May. First, really important update is that new runtime 16.4 is available. And with that runtime, there are several improvements. First one in runtime 16 is that we have now possibility of moving files from landing zone to other location after specified period of time. So for example, we load CSV files using Autoloader from some destination. And before we had problem with like data duplication because we had the same in bronze and in raw files. But now it's really easy to move them to different location after some period automatically. For example, 1 hour, default is 30 days, and that files can be moved to that location automatically. And for example, we can use cold or cool storage, Glacier or whatever for that files. Another possibility is just to specify here delete. And for delete, minimum is 7 days. And once the file is committed, then it will be moved to new location. So for example, here we have example. I'm using landing zone with files. And after a few hours, the files are automatically moved to landing zone archive, which is volume connected to cold storage. So it's a really good solution. Also, another solution which is coming is cloud files, manage file events. This way, it will be possible to give permission to Databricks to automatically create queue with the list of files which have to be processed. That is now gated public preview. Once it will be ungated, we will record video about it. And another update related to data ingestion is Databricks Lakeflow Connect. Now, finally, in UI, we can see the connectors, which we had before in preview and only available through code. Now, for example, there is UI even for SQL Server. So it's nice UI, which allow us to connect to SQL Server. It can be also Azure SQL and consume data from there incrementally using change data capture. Another update is related to workflows. Now, when we have workflow, there is option run with different settings. Before we use it for parameters, but now it's also possible to specify the list of tasks which will be run. So it can be one or more. It's really easy to select them. Also, we can change mode here from standard to performance optimized mode or vice versa. With performance mode, the runtime on serverless engine is really fast. But on standard mode, for example, it's taking longer time, but it's really cost effective. Recently, I did some benchmarking on my blog, and running serverless standard was really cost effective to process 2 billion records. So when you run jobs, I really recommend to use standard mode. If you need result faster, then you can use performance optimize. And usually, when you want result faster because you are testing, then you can use that option. Run with different settings and changes to performance optimize so you don't have to wait so long. Another update is related to new ETL editor. That editor is a improvement to former DLT editor, but now we have everything in one place. In the beginning, you can be like overwhelmed with amount of information which you have on the screen. But when someone has experience with old DLT, you had always this problem that you developed in one place and you had to run pipeline in a different place. You had to switch between windows. Also, some people had problem to start with DLT because they didn't even know how to develop. And now everything is in one place. Of course, you can customize it. And also in relation to DLT or ETL pipelines, when you have a DLT pipeline, ETL pipeline, then you have few new options. One is temporary views. So it's just view which we had in standard SQL. But what is more interesting is that we have also now option private. So we can have actual delta table like materialized view or streaming table, which is saved to storage, but is not published to catalog. It can be really useful for some, for example, test, if we want to have some streaming table, which is joining multiple sources just to do some quality checks. And we are not publishing it. So, for example, when we have that DLT pipeline, and if we go to that location where it's published, we see that only one table is published because this is that table, that's normal, regular streaming table, but temporary view and private materialized view is not published. There can be also private streaming table. Another update related to streaming tables and materialized view is that now you can delta share them. So if you click here, you have this option share via delta share. And now it's working also for streaming DLT data sources. So you can create new share and add or add to existing share, and you can share that tables. And another update also related to delta sharing is clean rooms. Because now you can have maximum 10 collaborators. So it's actually 9 plus you. So when you create clean room, you can add multiple collaborator. Before you had possibility only to collaborate with one party. And now you can collaborate with multiple parties, actually up to 9. And another update is relating to account settings because Databricks decided that predictive optimization is automatically turned on for all accounts. In my opinion, it's a good decision because thanks to that, many people will save money on storage, but there still can be use cases where you don't want predictive optimization to run, especially if you, for example, have some extreme use cases, for example, tables in petabytes, then you need to remember to disable it. So command to disable it is, as we see here, disable predictive optimization. It can be done on schema level or on catalog level. Another update related also to account is the new option, which is just in time. So that option is related to creating new accounts for user on the time when they are first time login to Databricks. So basically you don't add this user account before, they don't have own folder in the folder structure, etc. But once they are login, it will be created. Why this option is important? It's because now, for example, if you specify access to your workspaces, let's take a look here in permission, you can use, for example, nested groups. So you can add just group which has access to workspace. So for example, here is that group marketing workspace, and then you can use nested groups, and the users from that nested groups, from that hierarchy, can log in to Databricks, but once they will log in, then account for them will be created. So when you click here to nested group, we can see that here is test user, and the user is in that group, and the account will be created once the user is logged into Databricks. Another interesting use case are logs. there is possibility when we go to cluster settings. Let's come back to our cluster with new LTS runtime. When you go here to login, we can see that there is, it's possible, maybe I will click edit. It's possible to send logs to volumes. And this is kind of a nice solution because then it's quite easy to process these logs. For example, here I'm using custom Python script, which is just processing the logs and loading them as data frame. So this way it's really easy to debug your clusters and analyze logs when it's needed, and you can store them on this cheap storage. Another option is related to Databricks Assistant. When we click Assistant here in the right top corner, first thing we have new docked option that it can be docked. So it's quite nice. Yes, we can move it. Yes, and what is kind special now is that we can use it for interactive operation, and we can run any code inside Assistant. So we don't need to create notebooks. I will show you how it's with SQL, but I saw use cases that actually someone ran already Terraform code from Assistant. But let's look to it. So we'll ask something Assistant, select all rows from example table. Okay, so it's generated the code and we can run it here. Okay, it's running in on serverless runtime. So let's wait a few seconds. Okay, it's finally executed. And there is new comment, scratch path. And when we click it, send it to Assistant, it's creating for us a box where we can execute code. So for example, let's change to SQL, and there is, for example, this temporary data frame, SQL.df, and let's select data from there. And click run. And we see it's working. So we can use this scratch path and execute any code in Assistant, or we can ask Assistant to create code and execute it. So it's like interactive session where we can execute any code without actually going to notebook. Another update is related to query snippets. Now when we have query and we go here to in view to query snippets, we can define snippets which are defining, for example, our custom logic which is used in queries. That can be really useful for some business logic, which is hard to remember. So for example, here is an example that we have query snippet for internet sale, and that internet sale is marked by custom value. And here is one more thing, that in query snippet we can define placeholders. So let's see how it looks now here. When we start typing, we can see the snippet here. And when we click it, it goes automatically to place with placeholder, so we can adjust it like this. And it still remember is that it's placeholder. Another update is related to new charts. We have two new charts. First one is choropleth map, and it's a really simple map where you don't specify any like longitude, latitude data, but just the countries or cities as a strings, and then it's automatically match them with map. And so it's really easy to use because I'm using country as a string, and it's automatically selected that countries and also adjusting color based on your calculation. Another chart, new chart, is Sankey. The Sankey chart is showing us the the relations, yes, and it's quite nice and interactive chart. For example, when we click bread, we can see to which countries we are selling the bread. Yes, we can see that most we are selling to Denmark. So it's another really nice chart. And another update is related to one new comment in CLI, which I found really useful. So if you are in a directory like this with your Databricks app files, you don't have to go to Databricks and spin up app instance and also spend money on it. You can test the apps locally now. So let's copy this. Databricks apps run local. And you can see that it's starting, in that case, Streamlit app server. And now if we go to that URL, we can see our Databricks app, which is running locally on our local machine. So it's really nice solution for development. Another update is related again to new runtime 16.4. One of the best improvement, except the autoloader new options, is possibility of push filters to custom data sources. So in Spark, for some time, like 1 year, we have possibility to create own data sources. There is really nice API to do them. And before, when we created own data source, for example, using REST API, we had to use option to pass parameters. But now we can make it much more nicer because we can push filters. So if you specify like where or filter option in PySpark with some value, we can push it to data source reader and adjust our Python code to process that filters accordingly. Another update related to new runtime is possibility of custom code highlighting. When we attach notebook to cluster with 16.4, it has to be attached. We can see new icon here, and we have code status. So for example, we can use run only linter or other Python plugins together with our code. And you use standard settings for that, which is well known to some Python developers, that we edit PyProject. And we can specify different dependencies, for example, how to highlight our code, how to do some checks, and we can add all of them here. And then here we can see that it's running. Yes, it's using that configuration file to highlight our code. For example, here in that autoloader, it's also, yes, running. Yes. So it's using custom highlighting. So probably if you have some experience with that, you can define some nice template for Databricks related to that. And the last update is new SQL function, which is list agg or string agg. It's synonyms. And that function is doing string aggregations. So it's basically concatenating them. But I like that name, and it's can be really useful in some situation. So it's nice addition to SQL syntax. And that's all from updates from this month. We can expect a lot of updates and some really huge one in, I think it's 3 weeks, yes, in a really short time on Data and AI Summit. And after Summit, I will record in the end of the June another video with a lot of updates and what is new. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.